Okay, I believe we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our social media State of the Union for March. This is where we go over all the recent social media platform updates because there's a lot to keep track of, and we like to kind of help condense it so that you know what you should be paying attention to, what actually matters, and don't have to sort through all the noise yourself. So thanks for joining me, as always, Brandon.
Good to be here. Love chatting social media. We're both very passionate about it. So excited to be walking through all the exciting changes that have happened. Some maybe not so exciting, but all the stuff that's kind of been going on recently that will impact the average person trying to use social media for their marketing.
Absolutely. I do think we have a few exciting ones in here. It's just it's going to be interesting. So let's jump in and start with what I think is going to be the most interesting, most controversial, the TikTok point system. So this is something that you and I both saw, and then I messaged you and was like, "Have you seen this? This doesn't seem real." And you helped me dig into it. And do you want to explain what's going on here?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess to back up slightly, the TikTok has been a bit of like an enigma for a lot of people. Everyone wants to break down like what is it that makes this algorithm work so well. Um, and so over the years, there have been a number of creators who have tried to attach a bunch of different things, say, "Oh, this is more valuable than this." Even you and I have talked multiple times about how there are certain engagements that are more valuable than others. These platforms have talked about that. Like we know, for example, the most valuable piece of engagement is shares, comments, watch time, all those things very, very valuable. So what happened was we started seeing people sharing this screenshot of the TikTok points system.
Yep.
And the idea behind this was that this was a breakdown from TikTok. I'll get to some points of clarification soon. As this was presented, was that this was a system laid out by TikTok inside the app that if you typed in TikTok points algorithm or something like that, you would get this. And essentially what this was saying was that there is an hour of engagement that if you get a certain amount of points in terms of different engagements, it would boost your video more or less depending on how many points you got relative to your content. And like if you got to a certain amount of points within, I think 300 views, that meant that your video was going to be performing at a certain level.
Right.
It took about 48 hours for the person who just made this in ChatGPT to come forward and make a video saying like, "I made this. This is not from TikTok." He said that he created it to see what a lot of the like TikTok like hack grifters would do with it, which I thought was very funny.
Well, and
I've
everyone
spoken
jumped on it. Like every single
immediately.
The moment you Google TikTok point system, there's thousands of videos of people being like, the new algorithm, like, whoa, TikTok released it. Like, it's crazy how with no information, people are instantly like, look, everybody. And so when I was digging, it was really hard to even find a video that was like, this is fake, by the way, even though I knew it was fake. So hard to find that confirmation, which is so interesting.
Yeah, and I have my TikTok direct contact, and I've asked her a few times about things similar to this. I haven't asked her about this specifically, but in a lot of my conversations with her, she has said that like one of the big problems that they notice is that the type of people that are pushing this are pushing anything because this is the kind of stuff that gets views. Now, again, this is just pulled from ChatGPT, but I want to make it clear that there is some value to this, despite it not being directly and true from TikTok.
Yeah.
First is that engagement is like extremely important, and I would say that I'm not going to say that there's like a specific point value attributed to each type of engagement, but there are certain engagements, like we said, that are more valuable than others. Shares are more valuable. Watch time is extremely valuable, and so if you can create content that's drawing shares, getting people to watch the entire video, getting people to follow you, something that people want to repost or engage with or comment on, that stuff is all valuable. There's not like this point system attributed to it, that's just sending signals to the platform that there is value here.
Mhm. But
And
I do
so
think that these points too are, like you're saying, they're built off of things that people know are important. So like watch time and completion rate do highly impact your video. So I like
absolutely.
what you're saying here, like it's not official, but it's still valuable. And if you want to play by this points game, I think this could be an interesting way for people to say, okay, these are the things I want to aspire to. I want to try to get a higher completion rate or a higher watch time because that's worth more than potentially like a like or a repost or something there.
Yeah, I
But
think
there's
it's the sentiment I think that makes this valuable is
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, this is a fake system, but
Right.
the sentiment behind it, that engagement is the most valuable thing that will help push your content forward, is factual. So in that case, I would just take the general message of this, that get engagement on your content, that will work for you.
Mhm.
In here, we're talking about some other engagement hacks. Um, Anytime that there's like an engagement hack or like something to like boost views, be extremely, extremely cautious. I have lived my entire marketing career under the idea that the best thing for your content in the long term, in the long term, this is goes for SEO, this goes for ads, this goes for organic content, is what is best for your audience.
Right.
And something like a teamwork trend, where if anyone, for those who are not aware, last year, early in the year, um, people started to do this thing called the teamwork trend, where they would basically say, comment on my video, teamwork, and I will go and follow everyone who comments that. Follow me and comment, and then I will go follow everyone. And so everyone was kind of like getting each other up to 10,000 or to a 10,000 followers. And the
Yeah.
goal behind this was to get as many people to 10,000 followers as possible so that those people could then enter the creator fund on TikTok. What the creator fund is essentially, once you get to a certain amount of followers, you can now monetize your content. And based on how well your videos perform, you can start making money on your content.
Mhm.
The problem is that getting to 10,000 views is not it's not the be all end all, right? And so what happened was a bunch of people got a bunch of followers, all got to 10,000 views, and then they tried to enter into the creator rewards program. But the problem is that there's requirements to get in and requirements to stay. And what happened
Mhm.
was they weren't creating content that was valuable for their audience beforehand. And they just got to that 10,000 by this hack. And so a lot of them didn't get into the rewards program because they didn't have this like catalog of valuable, helpful content in the past. Those
Mhm.
that did get in didn't know how to create valuable content because their most valuable piece of content was something that pushed them to 10,000 views off of this teamwork trend. And not only did it make it so that a lot of those people got weeded out of the creator rewards very quickly, because you have to maintain a certain amount of views and a certain amount of revenue,
Mhm.
it broke the TikTok algorithm last year.
Right.
And so
I
basically for like 2 to 3 months, it was extremely difficult for actual creators to get views on their content because it had so messed up with the algorithm. All these people commenting on bad videos, following up with bad videos, sharing bad videos, that the algorithm was just like lost for a good 2 months. So,
Mhm.
um, these hacks,
They
people who
just
are telling you like do this like little thing and it'll make this thing like, be very, very wary of that. Good, solid content that draws engagement is your best bet and always will be.
Right, and I think the key to remember when there's a hack, it seems easy and it seems too good to be true because it is. Because even if it works in the short term, the biggest thing we like to emphasize is it's not setting up a long-term system. Even if you have a video go viral, even if you have one piece of content perform well, if that's not connected in a way that's meaningful to your business or your funnel or your ROI, it's really not gonna do anything, and sometimes it can even really mess it up. We've heard,
Mhm.
larger creators like Rebecca Richardson, the mortgage mentor, Nate Fain, these people who have said sometimes going viral actually hurts your engagement because you get so much disproportionate attention on one thing. And then all your other videos either like kind of see less engagement, or it just messes up your metrics to a level that you can't really do anything with it. So it's just interesting when people come in and are like, okay, I want to go viral. I want all the attention. It's like, okay, that is a goal you can set for yourself. But really, sometimes you can do so much more with 200 really solid followers. Like we have loan officers who just post video consistently. They don't even grow their following that much, but they have like a couple hundred followers and they still get new deals every week or every month or whatever it is, because they're consistently engaging and nurturing their existing pool in a way that's meaningful. And it's that meaning that creates the conversions, not, hey, let's all follow each other to get to 10,000, or, oh, make sure you're engaging from the bottom up. That's what I've been seeing a lot. And it's fine. It's an okay call to action, I guess, but telling people, hey, engage from the bottom up, meaning share this video, then save it, then comment, then like it last. That's not really a hack. It's just, you're just tricking people into engaging the way you want them to engage.
And these platforms don't care when you're doing these individual actions. Like they just are those actions happening. They're not keeping track of the order of operations.
No, they're
It's
just
just
like, they
funny.
want to see what's going on. So it's funny how these creators and on social media, you'll see these people being like, oh, do this and it'll do, I don't know, they promise the world. They're like, it'll give you 10,000 followers, it'll get you this, it'll get you that. But as people who you're on social media for your business, it's nothing, none of the hacks are going to work. It's all about creating value for your community, showing who you are, showing what it's like to work with you. And the more visible and consistent you are about that, that's going to help you build up the skills to then say, oh, I see why my videos are hitting 10,000. I see why that video did well. I can now replicate it, instead of, oh, 10,000 people commented teamwork, but then like no one here is interested in a mortgage. So what was the point of that?
And I'm sure that some people will say, how is that any different from what you guys do?
Right.
Like they're telling all these tips and tricks and secrets and hacks, and like you guys are doing the same thing. I want to be clear, like Ashley and I, our position on social media is that there are no quick fixes. There are no hacks. This is, you get in and there's best practices. And if you can take those best practices and work on them and perfect them on your own, because they're going to be unique for every single person, you can be successful. Anyone that says, if you do this, you'll get 10,000 views. If you do this, you'll get 10,000 followers. That's not what Ashley and I are about. It's not what we're about at Social Coach. We're about we're not about taking you and force feeding you the water and lying to you that water is here. We're about, here are all the methods that you can get that water, and let's help you get there. So
right. We want to help you
that's
build
our
a
approach.
system that works long term.
Yeah.
And it is long term. But that's why everyone that we talk to, it's about trying to make social media feel less intimidating, trying to make you feel more confident so that you build your skills. And honestly, I think so much of what we talk about, we're like, this is old school marketing. Like this is all the stuff that loan officers already do and know. We're just trying to help you use social media effectively to broadcast that to the right people so they hear your message and they want to work with you, because you're already good at that. You already have your network, you already have your clients, you have all the people who want that. Social media is just about getting that out there in the right way. So yeah, we're not here to overpromise anything. We're just here to help you build a system. And the last one on here, and then we'll move on because I have so many Instagram things to talk about. The last one is, if you ever see someone comment like, oh, I did 10,000 views on this video, that is a scam. And I know most people know that, but sometimes they'll be like, well, that video did actually get like 10,000 views compared to my other content. Well, what's happening is they're getting bots, like fake traffic with bots, to drive up the performance of that one post. And then if you engage with them, they're going to try to charge you, and they're going to try to get you to pay them to do it more. And the number one thing I just wanted to hit on here is it's never worth it to pay for fake followers or fake views or anything. Not only is that now like somewhat illegal. Like you can't do that. But it's just like we're saying with the teamwork, like the hacks don't work. It's not going to get you the results you want. And especially with people who are doing this for a business, trust is so valuable that you don't want to break that by trying to hack the system and find a cheat code to get what you want out of your audience. That's just never a good way to approach it. So instead, it's kind of like, hey, if something's not working, absolutely, that's frustrating, but that's a sign to pivot, not a sign that hey, if I just do this one thing that someone tells me, it's going to solve all my problems. It's just,
Hmm.
unfortunately, not how it works. Because if it did, everyone would be doing it. Every single person on social media would be posting at this exact time of day or using this exact one hack because then it would work. So it's just funny to me when I see all
And
that. And
usually the platforms will then find a way to stamp out that hack, that one
yes,
thing. Like
if
LinkedIn
anything,
spent an entire year planning on how to stamp out virality because
yeah,
people were hacking the system to go viral with their posts. And LinkedIn was like, that's not what we are here. And they
right.
curbed all of that. So,
Right, and it's not
anyway,
helpful. It doesn't work. Don't break the system. If you're trying to hack the
yeah.
system, you're not building the system to work for you that you need. So, anyway. All right, let's get into Instagram now because we've got some updates. But Instagram, one of the most notable things that they've talked about recently, because Instagram has been a lot more transparent about their algorithm, which is really cool because most social media platforms kind of keep that a secret. But Instagram's been telling us and confirming a lot of what you and I have been talking about and seeing patterns of for a long time. But one of the things they talked about most recently was watch time. And you and I always know watch time is super important. We always tell people really strong hooks in your videos and your content is what keeps people watching longer. And so the longer you can keep people watching, the better your content's going to perform, the more people it's going to reach. Well, Instagram clarified recently, which is very cool, that they weigh watch time in two different ways, relative and isolated. Relative, oops, sorry, relative being that if you watch 10 seconds of a 1 minute video, there's a ratio that they're looking at to say, oh, okay, they watched 10% of the video. That could be decently high. I'm sorry, why is it automatically switching my slides? That's so funny. Um, anyway, automatically it's taking that ratio as part of the watch time. But people then started asking, they're like, well, wait, if I'm posting longer videos, 2 minute videos, 3 minute videos, especially now that Instagram allows you to post up to 3 minutes, they're like, well, if someone only watches 10 seconds of that video, is that going to penalize longer videos? Should I only be posting like 60-second videos? And they came out and they said, no, actually, we weigh both. And so we don't know exactly how they weigh both, but 10 seconds of a video watched is still valuable either way. So whether it's a 1 minute or a 3 minute video, they're still going to look a little bit at the percentage, but they're also just going to say, hey, there was 10 seconds of this video that people stuck around to watch. We're still going to push that content more than a video that only gets 2 seconds of watch time. So I just thought that was really cool to note because a lot of people ask us, they're like, well, what about longer videos? And I don't know how to balance that. And we say shorter does better, right? In terms of watch time completion rate. 30 to 60 seconds is your sweet spot. 90 is usually as max as we would recommend. But if you do have those videos where you're going really in depth on a niche topic, going up to 3 minutes is fine. It's just great to have that audience that you know is really excited to see that longer video because the longer they watch, clearly, the better your video does.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that was just a quick overview I wanted to give. And then something else that they talked about with Instagram recently, and they gave us this graph, which everyone got a sneak peek because my slides randomly advanced. But they revealed this kind of structure for how they push videos out to people. And while part of this is not revolutionary, right? Like you and I have been saying this, where like it shows it to a small group of people and then slowly pushes it out. What you and I found interesting when we looked at this is that it seems to actually go from a more hyper niche audience to a broader audience, which is opposite, I think, to what most people think. They're like, oh, I want to do a video about real estate or home buying tips because then I'm hitting more people. But what this actually shows is, let's say this is using soccer as the example. Soccer is even the second more broad category that it hits. First, it's going to go like, oh, trick shots. Okay, if everyone who engages with trick shots, we're going to show it to them first. And then if they find this interesting, that means it's a really strong video, really strong trick shot. So now we're going to just show it to people who like soccer because then they'll probably find it cool too. And then we're going to go to people who like sports and then entertainment. And then it gets broader and broader from there. So this is where you and I have been telling people creating niche content can be really impactful because the more niche you get and the more specific of an audience that you're targeting who then find it really helpful, then it gets pushed to those broader audiences.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, this was so validating to see this
Oh, yeah.
for like so many different reasons. But one thing that you mentioned, I think people are worried that, oh well, if I'm too specific on my content, I'm not going to get as many views. And you alluded to this earlier. We have a webinar coming up later this month about this exact thing, which is low views does not mean a bad video. Sometimes a piece of content that is drilling down to a hyper specific, to a hyper niche is great. That could be a great piece. Imagine a piece of content that was perfectly made for you. You're trying to, get a loan. You have a very specific problem, very specific issue, and a video comes across your feed that is tailored exactly to your specific problem. I'm going to contact that person to learn more. That's the value here. And so rather than trying to make content that casts as wide a net as possible and is just kind of these like broad brushstrokes, go find, you and I tell people this every single week. Every time that you finish a call with a client, what is the one thing that you wish that they would take away from that conversation, and go make that video, because someone else is also having that same thing. And that
Right.
is that small little bubble that then goes, this hyper specific issue to a slightly larger group, to
Mhm.
a larger group, to real estate, to finance. Like, it just can get bigger and bigger. And if the video has enough value, it can go to a super wide audience. But not every video has to have that huge audience to show that it's valuable. So I
Right.
loved that they broke this down.
Me too, and I think what we see here too is, like, if it's appealing to a broader audience, you're gonna see this progression happen so much more quickly, and that's what going viral really is, right? They're showing it to 100 people, and if 100 of those 100 people engage with it, "Oh, dang, this is really good. Now we're gonna show it to 200, 300, 400," and the more people who are engaging with it, the quicker you're hitting these bigger and bigger circles. So that's kind of what virality is as well, is it's like the more that it's resonating, the more it's getting shown. So instead of starting with oh, I want to make sure I'm hitting everybody, so generic homebuyer tip, you're almost hitting nobody because it's going too wide. So that's where I'm like, hey, like you're saying, the views don't always matter. Like, find the goal of each piece of content. Like, I would say, okay, if I get off a call and instead of taking this idea of a very specific client who's asked a very specific question in a scenario, I'm going to generalize it. I'm going to say, oh, okay, to protect them, okay, let's just talk about credit tips. And you give the same advice, but it's now so generic. That's where I see people make a mistake. Instead of saying, don't use their name, don't put them on blast, but saying, hey, I just got off the phone with a client who has
Exactly.
20K in student debt and wants to know if their credit score needs to be improved by 20 points before they apply for pre-approval. Here's what I told them and how I would do what I would do if I were them. That is so much more helpful, because now anyone who has 20K in student debt and is trying to increase their credit score by 20 points is going to immediately be locked into this video and be able to have actionable steps, rather than, here's the generic tip for increasing your credit before you get pre-approved. That's kind of like, okay, maybe it applies to me, maybe it doesn't. And that's not
Mhm.
specific enough to help me know, oh, let me lock in. Whereas if you're like, hey, if you're in your 20s and you want to get your credit score above 800 before you apply for a home, here's what you need to do right now. Oh, okay, that's my demographic. That's my goal. I'm locked in. So that's what we mean when we say be specific too. Like, some people are like, oh, well, I did say, hey, home buyers. And I'm like, well, okay, like, that is more specific than just starting a video with no audience, but like, try to go one or two levels deeper. Try to say, okay, home buyers, what kind of home buyers, what age of home buyers, what location of home buyers? Like, hey, home people who want to buy a home in California but feel priced out right now, here's what you need to know. That is so much more impactful than generic market update for home buyers.
Mhm.
Anyway, I could give examples like
Exactly.
that all day, every day, but it's just something that
Mhm.
we like to drill into in our boot camp and in general, because I think people, like you said, they're like, well, my views are low, so it didn't do well. Views aren't everything. And we sometimes hear from people that their lowest performing content actually gets them the most conversions. Like, they'll be like, oh, I got a video that got thousands of views, got a couple comments, whatever, but it was my video that had like 12 views, but like 6 people reached out because it hit the right
Mhm.
people. And that's
Exactly.
what social media does, is it finds you the right people and it serves them the right content. So just working with that to be hyper niche is always going to be a good path to try. Okay, we keep going. I love this. We're so many tangents, but I do want to get through. So, other quick Instagram recommendations that they've just talked about. And again, I'm like, you and I found this so validating because we say this all the time anyway. So just having them confirm that we know what we're talking about is always great.
I just realized
So
that I'm able to control that. That was me accidentally hitting the keyboard.
oh, okay, that's why. I was like, "It's random." I'm like, "Is it on a timer? Like, what's going on?" Okay, thank you. That was Brandon, everybody. He's giving you sneak peeks at the content. It's good.
Yeah,
Um,
you never
but
know.
for Instagram recommendations, posting regularly. That's something we talk about a lot. Consistency, even if consistency is once a week, like it doesn't have to be a lot, doesn't have to be 5 times a week. Obviously, you kind of want to work up to being more consistent so your audience knows what to expect. But the more consistently and regularly you post, the better you get at creating content and the more broader audience you reach because they see, oh, okay, you're engaging with the platform consistently, so we're going to keep pushing your content out. Whereas if you're posting 2 times a week and then you go dark for 3 months and then you come back, the algorithm doesn't know what to do with that either. So consistency is the name of the game. You also want to make sure your videos are making sense to people who don't know you. This is something we say where loan officers, their initial instinct to solve this is usually, hi, my name is so and so, I'm a loan officer in California and this is what I want. And we go, no, that's not what that means. It doesn't mean you have to introduce yourself in every video. What it means is don't start a video halfway through the conversation. So like make sure you're providing the right context so that anyone who doesn't know you gets a solid piece from the video. And then what I always say is try to breadcrumb them back to your profile. So like try to give them a reason of, hey, this is part of a series, go check out the other parts. Or hey, if you want more homebuyer tips, go check me out. Like you want to give them a reason to kind of go, oh, that was interesting. Is this a one-off or is there more like this? And if there is more like this, where do I find it? And the answer should be your profile or your website or wherever it is you're trying to drive them. And then the last tip that Instagram is saying, like, use audio, use music, because that does help. And especially if you're using trending audio, which we've done a couple, either talking about or webinars, or we've talked about this before, but finding trending audio, they've made it a little bit easier, but don't get so hung up on, oh, I need to have the exact viral sound to make this video perfect. It's more about, hey, finding something that suits your content and fits with it, and that's going to help amplify it. So we see a lot of people being like, oh, well, how do I know which audios are trending? And how do I find the exact audio to make me go viral this week? And again, that's not what it's about. It's more like, hey, if you have a song that you think fits well, or if there is an audio that you're like, oh, this would be perfect, go with that. But it's more about like just adding more elements to your videos to make them more engaging overall. Anything to add there before I jump into the next?
Nope, spot on.
Cool. Okay, great. I'm like, again, this is just all stuff we go over in boot camp anyway, so it's kind of just a
Yeah.
fun little, like, we were right, haha. But anyway, the interesting piece of news from Instagram is they are planning, or there's rumors that they are thinking of launching their own app to compete with TikTok, basically, and it's a Reels only app. So what would be super interesting here is it would be pulling the Reels, all the videos out of Instagram into a different app, and then Instagram would continue as a photo app. So this is super early. I just kind of wanted to give people a heads up. There's nothing to do here, right? Like don't change your behavior, don't stop posting, don't freak out, nothing. But it's just an interesting thought for anyone who's been like, oh, I don't know about TikTok. I don't know. Go experiment, go try it on TikTok, because if Instagram does do this, it's going to mess with Instagram. There's going to be an adjustment period. And sometimes being ready to take advantage of those changes can really help your content perform well. But odds are it's just like, hey, keep your videos getting posted multiple places, because that'll just help diversify, reach new audiences. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I like keeping people aware of like, hey, this might happen. It also might not happen. So
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't.
don't know. I mean, I've thought a lot about this. I don't know what the value is for them to diversify again. Like, I
I
think
think it's
about
only if TikTok goes away. If TikTok goes away, this will become the new TikTok, potentially. And I think that's what they're thinking.
I think, well, what's interesting is I don't know if they would even need to do that in order for Reels to become more of a TikTok, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of creators that I'm in circles with are posting videos to both TikTok and Reels because, well, I want to make sure that I'm diversifying. I'm wanting to make sure I'm creating content. If there was another app, it's just another place now instead of Instagram to post those videos. And I don't know if that would make sense for them. I just don't know if there's enough uh, of a difference between like why root out all of the video content that's keeping people on Instagram, frankly,
Mhm. Really, it's their
just
biggest
to
draw right
push them. Yeah, it's become, I mean, or Instagram has essentially become a Reels app at this point. If
now.
you want engagement, if you want views, you go with videos. Unless you have a very established following, a lot of those creators that have had Instagram for 15 years or however long it's been,
Right, they got
they
those
are the
carousel
ones.
images on lock.
Yeah, they've got the Valencia filter on all their old stuff. Like
Oh,
those
yeah.
people who've been there, for them, like I get where they would be saying, get the video content off. Because when Reels came in, a lot of those established Instagram creators were having difficulty transitioning um, to initially to TikTok because we didn't have Reels yet. And
Mhm.
it was really fascinating was to watch a lot of these people who had made picture content try to transition their picture content to TikTok and find ways, how do I translate my style of content to TikTok? It did not
Right.
work. And it's taken years for them to figure it out. And now they've kind of done this on Reels. I just don't know if splitting that up makes the most sense, especially when they are trying so hard to bring threads back to
Oh, I
life
know.
at the
Yeah.
same time.
They're already
Um,
competing with Twitter. It just seems it's gonna be an interesting move. I don't think this is anywhere soon, right? Like, I think this
yeah,
is gonna
I
be
just think that Meta's whole game of like, we're just gonna like chase and copy whatever like the best app is I don't know.
well, they're
I think
losing
it's
their
kind of lame.
identity. This is the problem, is Instagram especially, but, like, Facebook too, they're trying to be every other platform. They're trying to take the best features from every other platform and put them in one place to try to put themselves on top, and I'm like, "But what you're doing is you're confusing everybody," because TikTok has a very clear purpose. X or Twitter has a very clear purpose. Snapchat has a really clear purpose, but they took the stories from Snapchat, they took the videos from TikTok, they're taking threads from Twitter, and now everyone's kinda like, "So why are we here? Like, is this about community? Is this like we don't have a focus the way that other platforms tend to have a focus? And whether that's like, hey, LinkedIn does a lot of different formats, but there's a clear unifying reason that you're on LinkedIn, which is the networking, the type of content you're seeing is targeted. So that part's just super interesting. We'll see what they do with it, but that's why with Meta, it's fascinating. We do actually have a couple questions I want to make sure we answer.
Sure.
Amy is asking, what are your thoughts on repurpose.io? So for anyone who doesn't know,
Ah,
repurpose.io is a website or a software that allows you to essentially, if you've already posted videos on Instagram, let's say, it'll let you instantly, it'll automatically take those and like repost them to like YouTube and Facebook and all the other platforms for you. I don't think there's a huge upside or a huge downside. If and I'll explain. I do think it's good to have your content in on other platforms. I always think that's good. And if that's an easy way for you to do that, awesome. The one thing I'll say is that platforms like that are not optimizing. So if you are taking a video from Instagram and trying to put it on YouTube Shorts require a title and the captions are a little bit different and you're going to want to tweak that. So if you're just copy pasting over, the ones that are getting automatically posted to YouTube Shorts may or may not do as well because it's not optimized for the platform. Now, most people probably don't want to sit there and have to like manually move over 100 videos anyway. So repurpose IO can be a great way to just kind of shuffle those over and then edit the descriptions on the back end. I don't again, that's kind of why I'm like it's not bad. Like I see why you'd want to use it and I can see how it would be helpful for migrating your content, but it's also not optimized. So sometimes it might be better if you don't have so many videos to just set them and schedule them yourself. Like write the right descriptions and then just use something like Social Coach or whatever scheduling tool you use to just have those automatically go out on a consistent basis. What do you think, Brandon? Do you think different?
my biggest thing is always to be hyper aware of the audiences to which you are posting any content.
Mhm.
And there are some cases where something that you post on Instagram maybe doesn't connect in the same way on TikTok or Facebook or wherever. And so I think, these kind of, oh, I'm just going to click a button and it's going to send it to all these different places. Um, when it's already been the key here is like it's already been I made this for TikTok. It's a 4-minute video. I want to now repurpose it and send it to all these other platforms where now you have a 3-minute cap on Instagram and Facebook is going to like it's just, it doesn't, not every video, not every piece of content translates well to every other platform. And
Right.
so I think that's where, like with Social Coach, for example, it's really valuable because you can pick and choose and say, okay, this really would connect with my Facebook, and or this would really connect with my Instagram and TikTok audience, but not so much my Facebook audience. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of like, I think that most of those decisions are best made at the initial posting of something. But
Right.
using repurpose to kind of go back to older content, I think is probably the best use of it. And then just be selective of what you end up doing with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do think there's value in posting your videos on multiple platforms because, like Brandon's saying, sometimes something hits on TikTok that and Instagram it just doesn't do as well. But usually, I think what we notice is the people who find the right rhythm for each platform. That's where your sweet spot's going to be. So yes, like you can blast out your videos across all platforms. That'll help you reach new audiences that can attract more. But you're going to see that videos or different pieces of content hit differently depending on the platform. And that's something I like to pay attention to of like we're saying there's different audiences there and the platforms just operate a little bit differently. You open Instagram for a different reason that you open TikTok, right? Even if there's similar features, even if you end up on the Reels feed versus your For You page, like those are similar experiences, but there's a reason you were on Instagram versus TikTok. So try to pay attention to those differences. That doesn't mean you need to exhaust yourself by saying, oh, I have to do every video 3 different times so that it's specific for YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. But there might be pieces of content where you're like, oh, this is super casual. I'll throw it on Instagram stories and I'll put it on TikTok. Those might be a bit more aligned, whereas something that's a bit more formal might do better on Facebook and Instagram and maybe even LinkedIn. So you can kind of bucket them into categories of what you're trying to achieve with your content, and then where you should push it to achieve that goal best. And I think that's a good way of thinking about how to post to different platforms and repurpose so that you're not feeling like, oh, I made one video and I only put it one place and now I have all this work to do. It's still getting your content out there, but in a more deliberate way. So you're not just blasting every piece of content to every audience you have and making everyone be like, why am I following you in 3 places and seeing the same video
Mhm.
6 times? Because that's not the best experience either. So I think that
Exactly.
kind of answered Tanya's question, which was a little bit like, is it a good idea to share the same video across all platforms, or should each video be tweaked? So I do think, especially when it's a shorter form video, that's going to perform well across different platforms. I would say just keep your audience in mind, like we've been saying, like putting a home buyer tip on LinkedIn. Okay, maybe that's helpful. And some people might still interact with it and think it's useful. But I think it'd be better if you could say, hey, here's a thought leadership piece, or here's a question I have about the industry. And I'm giving home buyer tips, but like what home buyer tips have you guys seen be effective? Like you're speaking to a different audience, and maybe deals will come from that as a side, people are like, oh, I see you on my LinkedIn feed and you ask all these great questions. Can I ask you about my mortgage? That can come as a result. But I think when you approach it with the intent that the platform is designed for, you're going to have better results than just trying to put homeowner tips on LinkedIn to try to just source business there, which some people do. And some people say it really works for them. So I'm not trying to say there's no rule for like this will work and this won't, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're
Mhm.
posting. Amazing. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, well, this actually is super relevant to the whole discussion we just had. I found this graph and it was about the top 5 generational favorite social platforms or most growing social platforms. So I just wanted to break this down because we get this question a lot about the different audiences. And this just kind of shows like Facebook is still primarily used by older audiences. And I love that it says millennials age 27 and up because I am 27. I have a Facebook. I open it maybe like once every 3 months. And usually because someone has told me they're like, go see someone's Facebook. Like it's a very deliberate reason. Um, so
And
when,
every notification I have when I go in there is worthless.
yeah,
Some company that I followed back in, 2012 posted an update with at followers, like,
I hate the app followers thing. I wish they would take that away because every notification I go into now, it's like some random person tagged at all their followers. And I'm like, please, please stop. Please stop doing that.
it's
I just wanted to
awful.
see if someone got engaged or not. Like, hold on. So that's where I would just say it's interesting to note that the platforms that are used, the most still may not always be the best for growing your content and converting. So millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, those are the people you want to be talking to on Facebook. And organic growth, we've talked about this. Organic growth is harder on Facebook, but if you find the right communities and you leverage your network in the right way, that's where people live. So if you're not just blasting people all the time, but you're really being strategic with like, oh, hey, I saw this question. Let me answer it in this Facebook group. Oh, hey, so-and-so, how's your home treating you? I know you guys moved a couple years back. Like, have you looked at your rate recently? If you're being more conversational about it, I think that'll do better. But if you're trying to do first-time buyer education, that's probably not the place, because people like me, that's not where we're looking. We're over on Instagram, we're over on YouTube, and we're over on TikTok. And it's interesting to see that Facebook is still up there for Gen Z, which is so interesting to me. But I think we all have it. Most of the people I talk to who are my age do not use it super actively, or if they do, it's for specific groups that they're part of.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about that.
The thing I'm most fascinated by is the fact that Gen Z, that TikTok's lower than Facebook for them.
Right. I think that's interesting.
I thought for sure that Gen Z had flipped entirely on Facebook.
Well, this is as of 2023, because I was like, the data.
Oh, I thought easily like since 2020, like
true.
That no Gen Z, like I know people who are younger millennials who are like, I don't do Facebook at all anymore.
Right.
And they all switched over to like Instagram and Snapchat. I think that's where you're seeing a lot of the like the YouTube stuff. A lot of those like kind of serve the same purpose. Like I think the biggest takeaway here is less about the individual platforms and more about the dominance of video here. YouTube is top 2 for everybody. Instagram is top 2 or top 3. And almost entirely followed by TikTok, and then Facebook pops up. Undoubtedly, most people who are active on Facebook are doing it out of just like keeping up with people. I would be so curious to know how many people that say, let's see, who said they use the following each month. I mean, everyone uses Facebook once a month just to check in, right? No, I don't know many active. I'm posting every day. That's my main social profile. So it's interesting.
Right. It's more about the behavior. It's like you said, it's more about seeing video is coming up. It's primary on every single platform. Every single platform reports that video is their top performing, most engaged with type of content. So seeing that rise is huge. And like you said, it's also like, okay, if everyone's using the app, but what does use mean? Does that mean logging in for 10 minutes once a month? Or does that mean spending 5-6 hours scrolling? Because I'm telling you, all the Gen Z and a lot of the millennials are spending upwards of 2 hours per day scrolling on TikTok or Instagram Reels. And that's data that we've seen come through. So this is like 2 years old. So this is kind of showing that beginning of that trend. But also the fastest growing, LinkedIn and TikTok are big on there. And that's what I think we've seen over the last year or two drastically change. So much more activity on LinkedIn and so much more activity on TikTok. So
if you are not on TikTok, this is an SOS. If you are not on TikTok, you should have been on TikTok 2 years ago. And if you're the best time to have been on TikTok was 5 years ago. The second best time is today. So if you are not creating content on TikTok, immediately start doing so.
Especially if you're already making videos. If you're already posting them on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, just go put them on TikTok, because there's so much more opportunity for virality there. And that's something I think so many loan officers, they're just wary about it for whatever reason. And we even see that with our posts through Social Coach. Like, out of thousands of loan officers, there's like less than 10% are posting to TikTok. And I'm like, why? It's a button. You just have to click the button and it'll do it for you. And you don't even have to think about it. And you might get 600, 6,000.
The algorithm on TikTok is so good that I can't understand why anyone wouldn't be posting there. So yes, this is your call to arms. If you're not posting on TikTok, especially if you're posting video literally anywhere else, you should be posting to TikTok. The reach is phenomenal. The way that algorithm works to send your content to the people specifically engaged with that kind of content is unmatched. It's the reason they haven't sold, is because they don't want to lose the rights to that algorithm. And that is what the platform is. And so, yeah, I know that we're like way over time here, so let's keep.
I know. Sorry.
Let's,
Well, you said
let's
half
keep
an hour.
moving.
It's an hour, but yeah, come to boot camp if you want to hear more because we talk a lot about searchability and TikTok and all the things. So sign up
Yeah.
for our free boot camp and we will get it all there. All right, I'll try to get through these quickly. LinkedIn, the most notable and most fun update for me are the comment impressions. So these are new. It's rolled out, so everyone should be able to see it. But basically, if you comment on someone else's post, you can see how many impressions that comment has gotten, which to me is huge because we talk about on bootcamp, we talk about the difference between reactive and active engagement. Reactive being, hey, I responded to comments on my post. Hey, I responded to people who reached out to me. But active engagement is when you go out and you leave comments and you're interacting with other people's comments, which or content, which to me is a huge way to get attention in a way that doesn't require you putting out content, but you're still joining the conversation. And this just put social proof on that. This just shows you, oh my gosh, I commented on one person's and I got 70 impressions. That's more than some of my posts get. Like, that's insane. And then with Social Coach, we were able to comment on something and say, oh, hey, this is what Video Catalyst does. Check out our scripts. And that got 100 impressions. That could easily have turned into a conversion or someone deciding to look at our website or whatever it is. So you as a loan officer, if you're going out there and you're making smart, educational, insightful comments on people's posts, you might garner enough interest that people go, oh, hey, like, who is this person? And let me check them out. And you can now see, you can kind of get, okay, I'm spending 10 minutes leaving 10 comments every day. What ROI am I getting from that? This is going to help you see that and see the value. So this is just one of my favorite updates I'm really excited about. Okay.
Yeah, I think just to kind of put a bow on that one, you and I talk all the time about the importance of going out and engaging with other people's content. This to me is the proof of the value of that. That if you are out commenting and engaging with people on their posts, your post, you will now be able to see, okay, I'm actually getting in front of more people simply by engaging. Now add on top of that your own content and you've got a recipe for success.
Totally. Well, the conversation always happens in the comments. And I think we've seen this with people, like brands as well, like Duolingo or like these big brands that go into comments and have like that perfectly timed comment that almost goes more viral or makes the post gain momentum. People read the comments while they're engaging with your post and watching it. So if you are in other people's posts in the conversations, that is also a way to get more attention on you without feeling like you're part of the conversation. You are one of the people instead of constantly just broadcasting your content and just hoping people come and interact with that.
Yep.
Okay. Also, LinkedIn is going to be testing a My Network feed tab, which is so interesting. So basically they're going to break out your feed so you can see kind of more like explore posts, discover posts from people you don't follow. And then you're going to have a separate feed for only posts from people in your network. So that's just something I wanted to point out, that if you're starting to see this, if they're testing it and you see that come up, I'm really interested to see what people think of this because I like getting a mix. I like being able to see what people I follow are posting and also see some connected content recommended. But it could be interesting to have these separated so that when I'm really deliberately trying to be like, no, I want to go nurture people in my network, you can do that a little more separately. So that's interesting. Okay. I'm going to skip through this a little bit. But basically, I just found a really cool article that talks about the importance of emotion with driving engagement, talking about how brands that prioritize higher emotional connection in their content do better. And especially with humorous content, you can get 65% of an increase in your engagement rates and a higher lead gen fill rate, like for your forms, just by being funny. So for people who are like, oh, I don't really know, it's a business, I don't want to get too personal, or I don't know if I should show off my humor. This is why we always say, no, do it. Like if you love telling dad jokes on the golf course, give us a dad joke every Friday. It doesn't have to be mortgage related. It doesn't have to be directly related to your business because you are your business. So it's related to you and why people should want to work with you or engage with you. So this is just another plug from us to like have fun with your content. I think that's the big thing everyone forgets because we're here for business. We're here to drive revenue. Everyone gets so serious about it that I think they lose some of the fun. And when you have fun, your audience is going to have fun, and that's going to draw people to being like, Brandon just seems like he's always having a good time on socials. Like, I want to know what this guy's about.
There's the father, and I think he has two sons, and they are either a realty group or I think they might be brokers. Can't remember.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly
they had that video where it was like, oh, I'm working, and like he's fantasizing about pulling the fire alarm.
Yeah.
that one video changed everything, and they have like
All they do now
hundreds.
is skits. Just
Yeah,
all of
and
it.
so everything skits, everything is comedy, and they get tons and tons of engagement. People who are following them, who are not following them for their mortgage content, but when they see mortgage content or know that they can reach out to this person that they've been following, that they've been engaging with, they've been sharing their content. How big is that, right? Like
Right.
that they have this lender that's just in front of their face all the time, and they're enjoying their content. They feel like they kind of get to know them. It makes sense that, doing more than just today we're going to talk about what a today we're going to talk about FHA loans and how you can know if you qualify. Like that's like, find a way to get some energy, get some engagement, get some humor in there, and you can really change the way that your content connects with people.
Totally.
All about connection.
We've started introducing some of this. So in our script library, there's a new category I created called the For Fun scripts. And this is where I kind of was like, I keep having these ideas and I just am going to throw them in there. So one of them was like mortgage process explained through Taylor Swift eras. And more recently we did like if mortgage loans were Friends characters, like just kind of throwing in some fun ideas. And I loved this. One of our users took the Friends one and made his own version with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air characters instead. And I loved it. And I was like, see, that's perfect, because he took the concept of like, oh, I hadn't thought about using TV characters to go talk about mortgage loans, but then you can take your favorite show, say, okay, here's how this is like Gilmore Girls, or this is like Sherlock characters or Psych characters or whatever show, Breaking Bad characters. Like take your favorite things and make it relatable to topics that are maybe otherwise a little less interesting. And when you do that, it's going to be so much more fun. So I love dumping those in there and seeing that people have been really enjoying them, because then they're like, oh, this was really fun. And I'm like, great. And if you had fun, your audience will have fun, then we're all having fun. And that's the whole point. Yes. And yeah, Isabel, she's like, that's me. So hard to look natural. Like, it's okay. It's hard to do everything all at once, but it's just more about being yourself. And that's why we always talk about social media. It's about just putting yourself out there more, because people already love working with you. So social media is just the channel to more efficiently reach the right audiences and show them, hey, I'm a cool person and I'm knowledgeable. Here's why you should work with me. And that's really just it.
Exactly.
Okay. Last slide. I promise we're almost done. I know we're so over, but I always love getting into these discussions because I think they're really interesting and valuable. But other platform updates. YouTube is testing voice replies and comments, which I just thought that was super fascinating. And I'm wondering if other platforms might follow suit, because it's a lot easier than recording a full video where you feel like you sometimes need to look really presentable. If someone asks a question, that you can then just like voice audio and be like, well, hey, can you give me your credit score number? And then if this, that, and this, and you can get a bit more detailed without needing to have the whole setup. So that could be interesting and fun to watch out for. Another note, Facebook live streams are going to be removed after 30 days. So I just wanted to call that out for anyone who does live streams and doesn't want to lose them. They will
watch this one while you can.
Right. I know, before this gets deleted, it's gone in 30 days, but it will be on YouTube and LinkedIn if you want to find it later. But that's the exact point, right? So they'll notify you before deleting it. But if you have anything you want to save, I would migrate it over to YouTube, LinkedIn, somewhere that it'll live a little bit more permanently. Or even like make a folder and email those out to your audience. Like, who knows? Just don't lose that video content because you've spent the time on it. So don't let it go away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's what we had for today. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. But if anyone does have questions, you can DM us. You can find us. We have a Facebook creator group that you're welcome to come join. And you can always comment, and then we can come and find those comments and respond to them. But yeah, this was our social media update for the month. I know that was a lot, but hopefully that was helpful. It sounds like we had a couple people saying this was really helpful information. So that's why we like to do this and keep everyone informed. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Ashley, for putting this together and running through this with us.
Of course.
Yeah, if you have questions, feel free to send them to us in our DMs. Mm-hmm. And good luck out there, everybody.
Yeah, and if you jumped on late and missed any part of this and want the recap will be on our YouTube channel. You can also find it on LinkedIn. And then we're going to try to do this once a month. So the first Thursday of every month, we're going to try to jump on for, we said half an hour, probably more like an hour, to do these updates so that you guys get a quick recap of what's new and what's going on, but it's not so frequent that you're overwhelmed by it. So thank you all. Thanks, Isabel. Isabel said thanks for being on here. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you next month.